Ladies and gentlemen, today we have the fabulous author and musician Chuck Leavell with us here on Texas Renegade Radio. And Chuck and his wife Rose were awarded the Outstanding Citizen Stewards Award by the Secretary of Interior. And in 1999, they were awarded the National Outstanding Tree Farmers of the Year. He's author of 3 books, 3 solo recordings. He's been a member of the Rolling Stones since '82. He's recorded with George Harrison, Eric Clapton, Black Crowes, and started with the Allman Brothers and that Texas band, the Fabulous Thunderbirds. Chuck, thanks for spending some time with us here at Texas Renegade Radio.
Mark, so great to be with you, and hello, Texas.
How is it in beautiful Georgia?
Man, it's a gorgeous day here, and I'm just enjoying a little sabbatical being at home.
Chuck, I know one of the passions of your life is tree farming and children and your family. Tell us about the last book you've written called The Tree Farmer.
Well, Mark, The Tree Farmer is a children's book aimed at children age about 4 to 8 or so. As you know, I am a conservationist, and my wife, Rose Lane, and I own and manage a place in Georgia called Charlane Plantation. We have our own tree farm here. We've been doing this for well over 20 years, and we very much love our life here, and we're very concerned about issues concerning the environment and in particular trees and forests. And I wanted to do something to get our young people, these wonderful, delicate young minds, to start thinking about issues that concern us with the environment and in particular with trees and forests. So having written a book some years ago called Forever Green, The History and Hope of the American Forest, of course this was a book for adults, at that time I started thinking how good it would be to do something for children. And so the concept sat there in my mind and rolled over for a while, and recently I was able to bring it to fruition, and it's just been a great experience. I'm very pleased with the way it turned out. I had a great collaborator, Nicholas Cravata, that helped me with some of the verbiage, and his wife, Rebecca Blue, did an excellent job doing the illustration. So that's what it's all about, and we're just so happy that it's out there.
Well, it's a wonderful book, and I got a copy of it while you were in Dallas, and as most of the listeners know, with my dyslexia, it's easy for me to read and great illustrations. So it's it's a fun book, and you ought to be real proud of it. Chuck, tell us about your plantation and your tree farm there. It's near Macon, Georgia, and is that northwest Georgia?
It's actually right in the center of the state, Mark, about 20 miles southeast of Macon. And, of course, most of your listeners may know that I worked with the Allman Brothers Band back in the 70s, and they were based out of Macon, Georgia. That's why I came to Macon, was to explore the possibilities in the music world here. At the time, we had Capricorn Records up and running. And I met my wife-to-be, who was working at Capricorn Records back in those days, my wife, Rose Lane. And we were married during the time that I was with the Allman Brothers, back in '73. So we've been married 32 years now. Pretty cool for rock and roll.
Congratulations.
Thank you for that. And her family has been connected to the land for many, many generations. Her grandfather tended forest land. Her father was a farmer and also tended forest land. Her brother is also involved in these things. And she inherited some land from her grandmother back in 1981. And so this responsibility of being a good steward of the land fell on our shoulders. And it was a real educational process for me. Mark, you mentioned the Fabulous Thunderbirds. I was taking a correspondence course on land use and forestry when I was working with the Thunderbirds back in the middle 80s. And, you know, I'd be doing my homework riding down the road in the bus or backstage in the concerts or in a hotel room occasionally when I could, and it took about a year for me to finish this correspondence course and to get a better understanding of how to be a good steward of the land, how to work the land, how to do the right thing by the land and the other flora and fauna that live within. So that's what started me on all of this, and I've been involved ever since. I have an equal passion for this that I do for music, and it's been a great part of my life.
How do you stay focused on the roads with Jimmy Vaughn and Kim Wilson and Thunderbirds? I don't know. How do you juggle that?
Well, I guess the answer is as best I can. But having a deep, deep passion for both these things, for music and for conservation and the environment, yes, maybe they're somewhat 180 degrees from each other, but, we're all concerned with the environment, Mark. All of us that live on this planet are concerned. We have getting close to 300 million people in this country alone. We have over 6 billion people on the planet. That's a lot of pressure on our natural resources, including our forests. And, I've made it somewhat of a mission of mine to try to bring to the attention of the general public the importance of proper and sound forest management. There is good news out there. A lot of people think it's doom and gloom for our forests. I get a lot of comments about people say, isn't it terrible what's happening to our country's forests? They're disappearing. And actually, that's not true. There's great news out there. As a matter of fact, we have some 272 million acres of forest land in our country, which represents 39% more than we had 50 years ago, and some 10% more than we had only 15 years ago. So America is doing a great job in managing its forests. I think we should all be very, very proud of that. Now, are there problem spots in the world? Well, you bet there are. And certainly we want to address those things, especially in countries that don't have the resources like the United States, where forests are being depleted at a less than desirable rate. But here in the United States, I think we stand as a shining example of how to do things right.
Well, Chuck, it's refreshing to hear a guy like you talk about this, because once the press gets a hold of this stuff, we just hear the doom and gloom, and it gets pretty discouraging thinking that we're just being kind of raped and pillaged from our natural resources. And to hear you say that, that's a great thing. Thank you so much for what you do for it. I hope that you can continue to spread the word. I know that you're a speaker. You go around the country and speak many, many times. Now, I've lived in Dallas all my life, and why would you pick a place like Dallas, a concrete jungle that probably needs more help than anybody?
Well, listen, it was a great honor to go to the Rosemont School there in Dallas. Your mayor was there, and she was just absolutely outstanding. The school and educational officials that attended the event were just wonderful. I think you guys ought to be real pleased with what's going on with your educational system there. Dallas is one of the most important cities in our country. We wanted to pick Dallas. It's in the center of our country. We also did an event on the West Coast in Los Angeles, and we're going to be doing more events. We'll be doing one in Chicago and perhaps even more. I just think, number one, it's a lot of fun. I get a big kick out of working with these kids, mostly second and third graders. At our event in Dallas, we gathered them in the auditorium. I talked to them and asked them questions concerning the environment and trees and forests. They were very well prepared and had great answers. And then I played them some music, and then we went outside and planted a tree together. And boy, oh boy, it's just a great feeling to see these young people to begin to think about these issues and to know that hopefully this will only be the beginning for them, and that they will learn as they get older about the issues concerning stewardship of the land.
Well, I was there, and it was a lot of fun. However, I didn't get a souvenir. Was it a wood dollar or
Oh, yeah, a tree cookie.
Tree cookie. That's
We handed out tree cookies to the kids, and, of course, this is a cross-section of a tree, and you can look at that tree cookie and count the rings and tell how old the tree was and tell some other things about it, and the kids really love that.
Well, that's great. And, Chuck, you've been given so many awards about conservation and tree farming and such. I read where you were with the signing of the Healthy Forest Restoration Act that came into law in 2003 with President Bush. What did you have anything to do with that, or what was your involvement?
Well, yes, I was very, very proud to be a part of that. The Healthy Forest Restoration Act was a bipartisan piece of legislation that was passed and is going to do so much good for our forests in this country. It was mainly aimed at activities in our national forest system. It will allow people to get in there and to do some great sound forest management practices without so much red tape. It will help to reduce the fuel load in many of our national forests. And as we all know, we've see every year some devastating forest fires that occur in part due to that big buildup of fuel load. So it was an honor to be involved in that. Yes, I did work to help get that passed, and the reward was that they invited me to come up and sing the national anthem at the signing of the bill and to participate in it. And it was just a lot of fun, and I was proud that we got that piece of legislation passed.
Well, congratulations. Are you politically minded over there in Georgia?
Well,
along with all the other things that you do?
I enjoy working with our officials, whether it's on a state level or local level or even national level, with these concerns, the environment and forestry and biodiversity. And I just think it's important that we stay in touch with these officials, that we let them know our desires and what we think about the situation. And that's why I do this. It's communication. You got to communicate with your political officials, or else they're not certain where you stand or what you think is right or what you want. And I've been very privileged to meet a lot of very interesting people. As a matter of fact, not too long ago, my wife, Rose Lane, and I were invited to attend a dinner at the White House in honor of Prince Charles and Lady Camilla. And as we all know, Prince Charles has done some wonderful things on behalf of the environment with his work. He's got many charities that are dedicated to improving not only wildlife habitat, but trees, forests, and other aspects of the environment. So it was a great honor to meet him and to thank him for his work and to be involved with that dinner. It was a lot of fun.
Well, that's exciting stuff. You know, one thing when I started doing a little research on your project, one thing that doesn't come up is environmentalist. Is that a bad word, or?
Not at all. No.
I would think that would go hand in hand with the conservation.
Well, you bet. You know, in my mind, Mark, those of us that live on and work the land are the true environmentalists. These are our backyards, my friend. You know, those of us that have some land that we want to tend, and of course we want to do the right thing. We want to keep it in the best shape possible. I think the mantra that we all have is that we want to leave it in better shape than we found it. You know, there's a wonderful old Native American saying that we don't inherit our land from our parents, but we borrow it from our children. And I think that's the way that most tree farmers, most farmers and people that live on and work the land see things. We want to leave what we have in better shape than we found it, and we also have a very long-term view of this process. We want our grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and generations beyond to be able to work this land, to live on it, and to understand it.
Well, what do you tell people out there that you go speak to, and they, you know, like someone like me, I love the outdoors and the environment, and I try to do my part in it, but I get kind of frustrated. What do you tell people like me that might want to get involved in any of these projects?
Well, what I like to tell people that want to do something to make a difference, Mark, is, first of all, plant a tree. That's something everybody can do. It's a wonderful experience to do it, and to do it with your children if you can, or with children or your nephews, nieces, whatever it might be. That's a great feeling. They'll get a big kick out of it, and they'll get a big kick out of watching that tree grow every year. And plant more than one. You know, plant them in your yard, plant them around your schools or around your office buildings. Get involved with urban forestry. If you live in a city, I'm certain that you will have a urban forest league, and you can get involved with them. They accept donations to get trees planted throughout cities, and as we know, we need these trees because they do help reduce pollution in our environment. You know, if you want to go beyond that, certainly the National Arbor Day is a great organization. If you're a landowner and want to get involved, there's a wonderful organization called the American Tree Farm System, ATFS. And if you have 10 acres or more, you can join this system. It doesn't cost anything. They have great information about how to proper manage a forest and how to increase your wildlife that come to your land. So there's a number of organizations that I could recommend. Those are just a few.
And it reduces the stress.
Well, you bet it does. You know, in my life, as you can imagine, playing with the Rolling Stones and with other bands, traveling a lot, there's a big electrical buzz that goes on during the whole process. You're playing in front of large crowds, and it's very exciting, and it's wonderful. But boy, oh boy, when I get back to Charlene Plantation and I take that walk in the woods or ride my horse in the woods or get on a tractor and do a little bit of work, it really helps to relieve the stress. It helps to provide a great balance in my life.
That's great. Well, my favorite tree is the bodark tree, which is indigenous to North Texas, and people make fun of me of that because it is you could run a tank into it. I don't think it would do much to it, but people would just soon cut those down than plant them. So maybe I'll make that my project to get more bodark trees.
That sounds
I don't even
great,
know.
Mark.
Do you know what a bodark tree is?
I'm afraid I don't, but it sounds good to me, man. And I tell you what, there's so many different species of trees out there, and all of them have some kind of purpose. And it's fun to learn about those things. So I'm going to have to look up in my tree encyclopedia about the bodark tree.
Well, good luck spelling it. But they in the 30s and 40s they used to cut them down and use the I guess the giant tree cookies to use on building pier and beam houses for the piers.
How about that? That's interesting. I'm going to enjoy learning more about that.
They're a tough tree. Well, you wrote another book back in 2001, Forever Green, and you said that's for adults. I haven't seen that, but can you briefly tell us about that book?
Well, you bet. My book, Forever Green, The History and Hope of the American Forest, came about because of the comments that I would get when I would travel, and people would say to me, "Oh, you're involved with trees and forests. Well, isn't it awful what's going on and terrible?" And, I would try to explain to them that actually we're doing a real good job in our country managing our forests. And it made me think about, well, let me just go back and trace the history of forestry in this country and get the truth out there. Mark, yes, there was a time in our history when we overcut our forests, but about the time of the Teddy Roosevelt administration, there was a real turnaround in this country. You had figures like Gifford Pinchot, who is known as the father of forestry in the United States. He was the first person to go to Europe to study forest management, to bring that information back to the U.S., and from there, other figures came into play. Carl Schenck was another one of the earlier foresters of our country. You had figures like John Muir, who was a great environmentalist and who cared about all types of environmental concerns in our country. And so during this period of time, we began to turn things around. And from that period going forward, yes, we still made a few mistakes, but boy, oh boy, we learned a lot. And as I mentioned earlier, the fact is that now we have 39% more forest than we had 50 years ago. So we're doing a great job here. We should be very proud of it. And again, we stand as a shining example of how to properly manage our forests.
You did your autobiography, Between a Rock and a Home Place, which I love the name. And would you elaborate on that a little bit? Tell us about that book.
Well, sure. I wrote the autobiography Between Rock and a Home Place a couple of years back. It was after the 40 Licks tour with the Rolling Stones, and I was turning 50 years old, and I just wanted to write down some of the memories that I've had as a musician, and also to document some of my feelings concerning my family and about the importance of our environment and the things that I had learned being a tree farmer. And I worked with a great writer named Jeff Craig, J. Marshall Craig, and Jeff's been a friend of mine for 15 years or so. I wanted someone that I felt could articulate my story, and so we worked very closely together. We gathered almost 200 photographs for the project, and it was just really a great experience to be able to recount some of the things that have happened to me in my life, both good and bad, and to reflect upon it. And, at the end of the process, it made me see and understand how fortunate I've been in my career as a musician and in my life as a husband and father and as a conservationist.
I'm very impressed, and I'm amazed how you have time to do all this. And you're also getting to be getting ready to be a grandfather. Congratulations!
Thank you so much for that. Very fortuitous that when we started the children's book, The Tree Farmer, I did not know that I was going to be a grandfather, but the storyline is that a grandson comes to visit his grandfather on a tree farm, and the grandfather takes the boy on a tour of the tree farm and tells him what it's like to be a tree farmer and some of the things that we do as land managers. So then after we had started the project and was coming close to completing it, our daughter Amy and husband Steve announced that they were going to have a baby, and so wow, that was really fortuitous, and it's great that is coming into our lives. Amy expects to have the baby sometime in mid-February, so we're just over the moon about it.
All right, maybe February 13th. That's my lucky day.
Sounds good.
Chuck, you came out with a new record. I want you just to briefly tell us about your 3 records, but you just came out with a Southscape, which came out this year. And how do you promote that when you're on the road with the Rolling Stones and you got your brand new solo project coming out?
Well, I'm very pleased that my new record, Southscape, is out and is doing quite well. I should explain a little bit about what it's all about. Southscape, the name, the word, refers to a musical portrait of the South. I was born and raised in Alabama. I moved over to Georgia in the late 60s, and I guess you could say I'm just a dyed-in-the-wool Southerner. I love the South, and I wanted to do something musically that would reflect my feelings and my passion. And so I was able to do that with some great musicians. Tim Reese playing some saxophone. Tim plays with us with the Rolling Stones. My friend Randall Bramlett, who worked with me in my band Sea Level, played some sax as well. Chad Cromwell, who's worked with Mark Knopfler and Neil Young, great drummer. Chad was able to play with me, and Michael Rhodes, a good friend of mine and an amazing bass player, came on board. So we recorded it starting late last year, and we were able to get it released around summertime, late summertime of this year. Had a lot of fun promoting it, get to talk to folks like yourself and discuss what it's all about. It's gotten some great reaction. It's getting some play on the smooth jazz stations, and I'm going to continue to do other projects as time goes on. I love playing with the Rolling Stones, but that's certainly not the only thing I do musically, and I enjoy doing my own projects. I also enjoy on playing with other people on their records.
Chuck, you've played with the Charlie Daniels Band, Iris DeMent, John Hyatt, Marshall Tucker, Katie Moffitt, Billy Joe Shaver, the Allman Brothers. Those are a lot of people that we've continued to spin over the last 22 years. Can you tell me what it was like, maybe starting out with the Allman Brothers and playing on a couple records that we still play a lot, Searching for a Rainbow with Marshall Tucker and Carolina Dreams, Billy Joe Shaver's Honky Tonk Heroes?
Oh, yeah, man, I'm just honored to be working with those people and to have worked with them throughout my career, whether it's in a recording situation or whether it's playing live with them. I think most musicians would be very happy if they had a career where they were successful with one band throughout the career. But I think that's what's made my career so interesting and so much fun, to be able to dance with all these different partners, if you will, to be able to make music with people that play country music, make music with people that play jazz or rock and roll or whatever it might be. You know, you can take the information that you learn from one artist and apply it to another and just keep that cycle going. And it's been an extraordinary career for me, an extraordinary honor to work with all of those people.
Well, looking back on your career, of all your musical moments, what is the one that stands out to be the greatest?
Oh, Mark, there's been so many great moments. A couple that come to mind was with the Allman Brothers Band back in the 70s playing at the Watkins Glen racetrack in upstate New York with the Grateful Dead and the band, in which we had over 600,000 people attend. That was an amazing thing to witness and to be a part of. Another great moment for me was in 1990 when the Rolling Stones played in Europe, and we went to Prague, the former Czech Republic, and as we all know, in 1989 was when the wall fell over there, and there was somewhat of a revolution going on, and we played the city of Prague to about 130,000 people. There were posters around the town that read, "Tanks roll out, stones roll in." So those were some great moments for me.
And of all the musicians you've played with, I guess what would be the favorite musician that you've worked with, or the most favorite project that you've worked with?
Again, there's been so many projects. Certainly the Eric Clapton Unplugged record was a big moment for me. I think the stars lined up and the band played very, very well, and I think we made a great record, being a live record in that situation. That was a wonderful experience. I would also have to mention the moment, very special for me, playing with Ray Charles, I guess probably in the mid-'80s on a show live in Rome, Italy. Great honor to work with one of my heroes. He's a person that has affected all of us, whether you're a musician or just a listener or whatever. Ray Charles was the bomb. He was one of the greatest of the greats, and to be able to play with him was a huge honor. And I was able to speak to him briefly and tell him what he meant to me as an artist and as a musician, and I'm so grateful I was able to do that.
Well, isn't he the one that kind of got you started playing the piano?
Well, when I was very young, my sister took me to a concert. I must have been maybe 12 years old or maybe even younger, and I had just never seen a band like that. I'd never seen a band of that quality, an artist of that quality. Of course, there was Fathead Newman playing sax. Billy Preston was in the band playing Hammond B3. The Raelettes were singing, and of course Ray was the star of the show. And wow, it just so moving to me, and so much fun. And I was mesmerized. I was hypnotized, and I made up my mind that night that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a professional musician. I wanted to play in a band that could be somewhere near as good as that one. That's great.
That's great. Well, Chuck, thank you so much for spending your morning here with Texas Renegade Radio, KNON 89.3 FM, Dallas. And man, I can't tell you how many songs that we've spun on this station that you have had a lot of input on, and it's a real pleasure to have you spend the time with us.
Mark, I appreciate it so much. Love everybody there in Texas. Look forward to coming back. Thanks so much for the opportunity to talk about the new children's book, The Tree Farmer, to talk about my other two books, Forever Green and Between Rock and a Home Place, my new CD, Southscape. Thank you so much for that, and love you, Texas, and we'll see you again real soon.